everyone, my name is Ashley Herbold and I am doing the oral requirement for Drama 30 for the summer 2014 semester. We've already watched a number of movies that have given us a lot of insight into Latino and Chicano culture and the struggles that they faced, the environment they lived in, the mistreatment they faced also from everyone, and just what they had to do in order to get us most of the way of where we are today, which we still have a lot of way to go. My purpose today is to share with you guys my deeper analysis and perspective of different situations within the films of Bamba and Blood In, Blood Out. And my main ideas are going to be covering social concerns, aesthetics, and economic ideas. So my sources are, of course, the movies La Bamba, Blood In, Blood Out, and also an article titled Latino Civil Rights Timeline 1903 to 2006 from tolerance.org. Now, like I said, these films really gave us a lot of insight from Latino Chicano culture and what they had to go through. And personally, not being from Chicano or Latino culture, this class has definitely helped me see what other people have had to go through in order to get it all to where we sit today is kind of what a melting pot, I would say, that we are as the U.S. So it's really interesting to see and have a better understanding of different people and the history of other culture and really seeing what impact everyone can make when they all work together. Now, getting into social concerns, right off the bat with Blood In, Blood Out, there's the segregation, there's education issues, there are ways of breaking the cycle that don't happen. Now, for segregation, Miklo, being biracial that he is, identifies himself mentally as a Mexican American and physically identifies as a white male. So upon entering the prison, he is immediately accepted by all of the white people who run the kitchen, and no one else gives any care for him whatsoever until he talks to the Mexican American organizer of the prison gang and says that he will prove his loyalty by doing anything that it is that they want him to do, because he really wants to be a part of that family and part of that brotherhood so badly that he's really willing to do anything. And sure enough, he so easily kills off one of the white men and gains the Mexican American prison gains respect. So between that, it's Mexican Americans hating whites, it's whites hating Mexican Americans and African Americans, it's African Americans hating whites and Mexican Americans, as well as Mexican Americans hating African Americans. So it's this continuous little triangle that keeps going around, and the extent that they're willing to go to destroy one another is pretty crazy, and a little hard to wrap your head around nowadays, because that isn't something that's as common, that we know about as often. So with education, it's not really pushed at all in Blood In, Blood Out, and it's definitely a tool more so that Miklo uses to try to get out, to show that he's trying to make something of himself and become a better person. Where for Cruz, when he isn't in prison, he isn't doing anything else, but he gets an award for his art and he gets a scholarship to an art college, but he doesn't go. It's never pushed by the family, it's never pushed by the community, it just disappears entirely. And I think that was really bad for the time and representing how much things could have been different and if they'd had the exposure to change their lives and keep going ahead with what they were doing. Now, with breaking the cycle, it's emphasized throughout the whole, not the whole movie, but it's emphasized in the movie that that's what they want. And I agree. Definitely. It's what the white people want. It's what the government wants. It's a way to try and suppress Mexican Americans again. And trying to prevent those actions from happening, which cause those feelings and those beliefs. It's a difficult situation. Now, in La Bamba, it's about 10 years apart from Blood In, Blood Out, and Richie is going to school. There's different ethnicities all going to school together, and it's not really an issue, but it's an issue for all the white people who are not in support of equal human rights and don't want anything to do with Mexican Americans. So an example of this would be how Richie wants to be with Donna, but he can't be with Donna because her father doesn't want her to have anything to do with him because he's Mexican American. He doesn't care what music he plays. He doesn't care if he has things going for him. Because he's Mexican American, he wants her to have nothing to do with him. Now, in both of these films, it didn't stop the film from ending. It didn't discourage Richie not to want to be with Donna. It eventually helped, in a way, each movie come to an end in itself, where they either overcame it or they fell back through and back into the cycle. So my second main idea is aesthetics, and I focus mainly upon the art aspect of the characters within these films. So Cruz comes off as this amazing artist and definitely shows his cultural side within his paintings and what he knows and what he knows best, and it looks so well on canvas that instead of taking the award and going to college, because he was jumped by the other street gang, he turned to using harder drugs to help ease the pain that he was going through. And after Juanito died, it really just sank him further into that black hole that he was going into, which didn't help him in any way. It really dragged him down. It made him seem like a nobody, just another druggie on the street. And we see his recovery start after Paco visits, and we see the crazy art that's on the wall that has his little brother. And we can still see that Cruz still has that talent. He still has the skills to be a really good artist. It isn't until after Dia de los Muertos that they come back together as a family. And in a way, it's a healing moment for Cruz because he needed the family. He needed the support from the family, and it really turned him around and took him back to his roots and what he was like and who he was. So that was a really good thing. It created a beautiful ending to the film overall, even though Miklo wasn't involved at the end in a positive way. Where in La Bamba, Bob was a great artist too, but his character flaws really played into how he was living, where Richie was getting more of the mother's attention. Richie was getting the best of the best, the most help he could get, and it was a psychological problem for him, not so much as a physical, but to deal with the problems that he felt were going on at home. He turned to alcohol, and he was drunk, and he would ruin all of these special moments and mistreat people like they were nothing. So with that, there comes the climax where they get into the huge argument around Christmas time, or after Christmas time, and Bob comes out with his true feelings toward Richie. And it's at that point where we hit kind of like the surface of where everything lies, and just what is wrong with Bob and how he feels. So with that coming to a head and popping, it really set the brothers up to reunite on equal grounds and kind of make another turn in a positive direction, where Bob picked back up his job. He turned in some art for an art contest and won the art contest, getting art lessons and taking care of his little girl and taking care of Rosie. So that was also good to see. Both of the films, even though the characters had their flaws, it came around to a good ending, and it really made the film appealing. It made the films whole. And so into my economic ideas. In Blood In, Blood Out, when Jimmy gets out of prison and he's working and he finds that they're taking money out of his paychecks that he honestly made, it sparks something in him to go back to what he was doing. So when he gets home and he sees this deal on the table and it comes with money, there was no reason for him not to take it and not to fall back into his tracks. Where had he been given options of where he would have worked and who he wanted to work for, I think that he would definitely have stayed in the straight and narrow and gone in the right direction, instead of getting thrown back into prison and making nothing of himself besides a great drug dealer. So that was pretty obnoxious. But in La Bamba, Bob starts out with dishonest money that his mother thinks he made, and he tells her that it's honest. But we later on learn that he sells drugs, he occasionally picks up garbage, and that's his way of making an income and getting money. So it could have very well been honest money, but this is also another thing where it's exposure. Everyone, regardless of what age, needs the exposure in order to know what's out there and have the opportunity to make something of themselves, no matter what level or economic situation they're in. They should be exposed to the education. They should be exposed to financial suggestions. And it was really a time where they did have a couple choices. It wasn't a lot. Where for Blood In, Blood Out, Paco goes into the military, and that could have been an option for Cruz, or it could have been an option for Miklo, but it didn't happen. It wasn't the life that they chose. It wasn't the honest life that they chose. So for the inequality for Latino people in general, pardon my kitty cat. So the inequality for Latinos in general during that time was, pardon my kitty cat again. So the inequality for the Latino people during the time had actually grown a little bit better for them, and they were gaining the opportunity to vote. They were gaining the opportunity to the right to the education, regardless of whether or not they spoke English. And I think that was a good thing for the time that they were in. But I think we've come a lot farther now, and I think that if things were the same way they are now back then a lot more could have been done, and a lot more people would have been successful. So, in conclusion, I hope I brought a few different perspectives to the table for everyone else who may not have seen things the same way that I have. And I covered a couple of the social concerns I thought were important to the film. I covered a little bit of the aesthetics that or applied in these films, and also some of the economical ideas and options I think that could have helped better the situations that they were in. So, thank you.